The Second World War. A conflict so massive, so devastating it carved the world anew. It was a struggle between ideologies, between freedom and tyranny. The Allied victory, hard-won and decisive, shaped the world we know. It gave birth to the United Nations, a beacon of hope for international cooperation. It ushered in an era of unprecedented economic prosperity, rebuilding war-torn nations from the ashes. The defeat of Nazi Germany and Imperial Japan shattered the grip of fascism and militarism. Democracy, though imperfect, spread its wings. The war's end saw the rise of superpowers, the United States and the Soviet Union, locked in a Cold War that defined a generation. Yet this familiar world built on the sacrifices of millions could have been vastly different. The year is 1944. On the beaches of Normandy, the Allied invasion falters, crushed beneath the Wehrmacht's might. In the Pacific, the American fleet suffers a catastrophic defeat, the rising sun continuing its relentless march. The tide of war turns, hope dwindling with each passing day. By 1945, the Axis powers stand triumphant. A negotiated peace, brokered by a desperate and fractured alliance of remaining Allied nations, seals the fate of the world. The United States, its spirit broken, retreats into isolationism, its dreams of global leadership shattered. Great Britain, battered but unbroken, stands alone, a defiant island fortress in a world dominated by the Axis. The British Empire, once a global power, shrinks, clinging to scattered colonies as symbols of a bygone era. The Soviet Union, bled white by years of brutal conflict, collapses. Its vast territories are carved up between Germany and Japan, the hammer and sickle replaced by the swastika and the rising sun. The world watches in stunned silence as a new order rises from the ashes of war. With the old world order shattered, the victors set about remaking the globe in their image. The Nazis, driven by their twisted ideology, establish a greater Germanic Reich, stretching from the Atlantic coast to the Ural Mountains. Within this new empire, a brutal racial hierarchy reigns supreme. The Aryan ideal is ruthlessly enforced, while those deemed undesirable, Jews, Roma, Slavs, face systematic persecution and extermination. Across Asia and the Pacific, the Japanese Empire tightens its grip. Fueled by dreams of Pan-Asian dominance, Japan exploits the resources and people of conquered lands, establishing puppet regimes that serve the emperor's will. The world, once a tapestry of diverse cultures and ideologies, is forcibly reshaped into a grim reflection of the victor's will. Freedom is but a distant memory, replaced by the iron fist of totalitarian rule. In the greater Germanic Reich, fear and paranoia permeate everyday life. The Gestapo, the Nazi secret police, maintains an iron grip on society, silencing any whisper of dissent. Citizens live under constant surveillance, their lives dictated by the whims of the Nazi regime. Racial purity becomes an obsession. Aryan children are indoctrinated from birth, taught to embrace the Nazi ideology and view themselves as superior to all others. Interracial relationships are strictly forbidden, punishable by imprisonment or even death. Those deemed racially inferior are stripped of their rights and subjected to unimaginable horrors. Millions are herded into concentration camps, transformed into slave laborers or systematically exterminated in gas chambers. The stench of death hangs heavy in the air, a chilling reminder of the regime's brutality. Across the Pacific, the Japanese Empire imposes its own brand of tyranny. Conquered populations are subjected to forced assimilation, compelled to learn Japanese language and customs. Traditional cultures are suppressed, replaced by a bastardized version of Japanese identity. The economies of conquered nations are plundered to fuel Japan's war machine and enrich its ruling elite. Forced labor becomes commonplace, with millions toiling in factories and mines under inhumane conditions. Resistance movements flicker in the shadows, but they are brutally suppressed by the Kempeitai, the Japanese secret police. The dream of Pan-Asian unity crumbles under the weight of Japanese imperialism, replaced by a deep-seated resentment that simmers beneath the surface. The world, once interconnected, is now carved into rigid spheres of influence. The greater Germanic Reich dominates Europe, its puppet governments dancing to the tune of Berlin. The Japanese Empire controls vast swaths of East Asia and the Pacific, its hunger for resources and power insatiable. Between these two titans lies a precarious balance, a constant tension that threatens to erupt into open conflict. The spoils of war, including vital resources and strategic territories, become points of contention, fueling mistrust and animosity. The rest of the world exists in the shadows of these superpowers, forced to navigate a treacherous geopolitical landscape. Neutrality is a luxury few can afford, as the Axis powers exert their influence through economic pressure, military threats, and covert operations. In this new world order, culture becomes a tool of the state. Art, music, and literature are carefully controlled, used to glorify the regime and promote its twisted ideology. Dissent is ruthlessly silenced, replaced by a chorus of propaganda that permeates every aspect of life. History is rewritten, with the Axis powers cast as liberators and their enemies demonized as threats to civilization. Education systems are overhauled, designed to mold future generations into obedient servants of the state. The free exchange of ideas, once the lifeblood of intellectual and artistic progress, is stifled. Independent thought is dangerous, punishable by imprisonment, torture, or even death. The human spirit, however, is not easily broken, and even in the darkest corners of this dystopian world, sparks of resistance flicker. Despite the pervasive atmosphere of fear and oppression, resistance movements emerge in both the East and the West. Fueled by a burning desire for freedom and a refusal to accept the Axis's tyranny, these resistance fighters operate in the shadows, risking their lives to undermine the regime. From sabotage missions to acts of defiance, these acts of resistance, though often small in scale, represent a beacon of hope in a world shrouded in darkness. They serve as a constant reminder that the human spirit cannot be entirely extinguished. However, not everyone resists. Collaboration with the enemy becomes a complex and morally ambiguous issue. Some collaborate out of fear, others for personal gain. The lines between victim and collaborator blur, creating a moral quagmire with no easy answers. This is the chunked script based on the given strategy. Victory, as the Axis powers soon discover, is a heavy burden to bear. The vast empires they have conquered require constant vigilance to maintain order and suppress dissent. Paranoia grips the ruling elite as they become increasingly isolated and distrustful of even their closest allies. The economic realities of managing such vast empires also take their toll. The relentless exploitation of resources and people creates resentment and instability, sowing the seeds of future conflicts. The very ideologies that fueled the Axis's rise ultimately contribute to their downfall. The Nazis' racial hatred and the Japanese's imperial ambitions create a climate of fear and mistrust, both within their empires and on the world stage. The world of Axis victory is a chilling and unsettling vision, a stark reminder of the fragility of freedom and the high cost of complacency. It is a world where darkness triumphed, where the forces of hatred and intolerance reshape the globe in their image. But this alternate reality, though a product of imagination, holds valuable lessons for our own time. It reminds us that the choices we make, both individually and collectively, have far-reaching consequences. It compels us to confront the enduring allure of extremism and the dangers of unchecked power. It underscores the importance of safeguarding democratic values, of fighting for justice and equality, and of never taking our freedoms for granted. The world of Axis victory, though a fictional exploration, serves as a powerful mirror reflecting the potential consequences of unchecked hatred and ambition. It reminds us that the course of history is not predetermined, but rather shaped by the choices we make. By confronting this unsettling alternate reality, we gain a deeper appreciation for the sacrifices made by those who fought for freedom in our own timeline. We are reminded that the values of democracy, tolerance, and human dignity are not inevitable, but rather hard-won achievements that must be constantly defended. As we navigate the complexities of our own time, let us draw upon the lessons of this chilling alternate history. Let us strive to build a world where the horrors of the Axis victory remain firmly confined to the realm of imagination. And as always, if you enjoyed this video of an alternate reality, give the feedback you think it deserves.